Why do we pay top dollar for fresh food when the most delicious meal in your house might actually be the one sitting in a plastic container in your fridge right now? Most of us were raised to believe that fresh is always better, but if you've ever taken a bite of last night's curry or a slice of cold pizza, you know that's not entirely true. In fact, for some of our favorite comfort foods, time is the most important ingredient in the recipe, and it's doing work that no chef can replicate in a single sitting.
The idea that leftovers taste better isn't just a myth we tell ourselves to avoid wasting food. It's a documented chemical transformation that turns a standard dinner into a culinary masterpiece while you're asleep. When you put a pot of stew or a tray of lasagna in the refrigerator, you aren't just storing it, you are placing it into a low-temperature flavor laboratory. While the stove is off and the kitchen is dark, a series of complex reactions are quietly unfolding inside those containers, deepening the spice, unifying the sauce, and completely changing the structure of the meat.
Think about the last time you made a big pot of chili or soup. When it first comes off the heat, the flavors are often distinct and separate. You can taste the sharp bite of the onion, the punch of the garlic, and the individual heat of the peppers. But as the dish cools, something strange happens. The ingredients begin to mix and mingle, allowing the aromatics to lose their harshness and meld into a single harmonious profile. This is why that day-old flavor feels so much richer and more integrated than the version you ate just hours earlier.
The first secret to this transformation is a slow-motion version of the Maillard reaction. You might know this as the browning process that happens when you sear a steak or toast bread, creating hundreds of complex aroma molecules. While we usually think of this happening at high heat, the reaction doesn't actually stop when you turn off the flame. It just slows down dramatically. Over 12 hours in a cold fridge, additional flavor compounds continue to form, adding layers of savory complexity that weren't there when the meal was fresh.
Then there is the magic of fat. Many of the most powerful flavor compounds in spices are lipophilic, meaning they dissolve in fat rather than water. In a freshly cooked dish, these flavors are often trapped inside cell structures or concentrated in small oil droplets. Overnight, these molecules migrate, dispersing themselves evenly throughout the entire dish. When you reheat that meal, every single bite now carries a perfectly balanced cross-section of the total flavor profile.
But the most dramatic change is actually structural. If you've ever noticed that a leftover stew has a silky texture that a fresh one lacks, you're tasting broken down collagen. When meat is slow cooked, its tough connective tissues melt into gelatin. In the fridge, this gelatin sets into a firm jelly, and when you reheat it, it melts back down to create a luxurious, mouth-coating consistency that makes the sauce feel thicker and more satisfying. Simultaneously, starches in things like potatoes or pasta undergo retrogradation, recrystallizing as they cool to create a firmer bite and helping them absorb even more of that savory sauce. Look at the world of Indian curries. A single dish might contain 20 or 30 different spices, all fighting for your attention. On day one, the cumin or ginger might stand out too sharply. But after a night of maturation, those hundreds of bioactive compounds oxidize and transform. Sharp sulfur compounds in garlic and onion convert into mellower, sweeter derivatives. This is why dishes like Rogan Josh or Dal Makhani are almost universally considered better the next day. They require that 12 to 24-hour resting period to reach thermodynamic equilibrium.
It isn't just about the spice, though. Take lasagna, for instance. Food scientists often call it triple cooked. You cook the meat, you bake the whole assembly in the oven, and then you reheat it. During that middle stage in the fridge, the pasta noodles act like sponges, drawing the flavorful tomato sauce deep into their interior. The cold temperature also solidifies the fats in the cheese and meat, intensifying their flavors before they are melted a second time. This is also why leftover lasagna is so much easier to cut into perfect, cohesive squares. The ingredients have literally bonded together. Even simple items like meatloaf or tuna salad follow this rule. In meatloaf, ingredients like bell peppers and onions need time to fully meld with the proteins and breadcrumbs, creating a melt-in-your-mouth sensation that only happens after an overnight stay in the refrigerator. For tuna salad, the mayonnaise base allows the tang of pickles or the bite of onion to permeate the fish, turning a basic sandwich spread into something with a deep umami-rich profile that a freshly mixed batch can't match.
However, here is the big reveal that might change how you think about your own taste buds. The food isn't the only thing that's different on day 2. You are too. Scientists have discovered a phenomenon called sensory fatigue. When you spend an hour standing over a stove, smelling the garlic, the spices, and the simmering meat, your nose and brain actually start to tune those smells out. Your sensory receptors get tired of the constant stimulation. By the time you sit down to eat that fresh meal, your perception of its flavor is already dull and muted. But the next day, you walk to the fridge with a clear nose. You haven't been habituated to the scent of the cooking process. When you reheat that dish, the aroma hits your receptors for the first time in hours, making the flavors seem incredibly bold and vibrant. In a surprising number of cases, the magic of leftovers isn't just a chemical change in the pot. It's the fact that your brain is finally capable of tasting what was there all along. This reveals a profound truth about how we experience the world. Our first impression of something is rarely the most accurate one. Just as a complex piece of music or a dense book reveals more of itself on the second or third pass, a complex meal requires time and a fresh perspective to be fully understood. We live in a world obsessed with the instant, but the science of leftovers proves that some of the best things in life, whether it's a fermented kimchi or a Sunday night bolognese, simply cannot be rushed. So, the next time you're tempted to order something new because you don't want old food, remember that you might be passing up a culinary masterpiece that's been working overtime just for you. Which meal in your life has always tasted better as a leftover? And, knowing what you know now about sensory fatigue, do you think it was the food that changed? Or was it your own mind? Let us know in the comments, and maybe it's time to start cooking your Tuesday dinner on Monday night.